Hello, this is Video Game Animation Study. You're either watching this video because you like Resident Evil 4, or perhaps are interested in video game development, such as how game animation is done. You might be here for both of those things. I'm here because my script needs to be read out loud. Resident Evil 4 came out in 2005, 19 years ago now. And it's as good now as it was then. Resident Evil 4 Remake came out last year in 2023, so I thought I'd be right on the ball and do a video a whole year later on how the animations have changed in all that time. This video was funded by my amazing patrons, and additional research was provided by game developer Jonathan Cooper, author of the brilliant book Game Anim, Video Game Animation Explained. Stick around to the end of this video where I'll suggest some fun-looking indie games that are coming up. It's just a short one this, I just want to make it after playing Resident Evil 4 Remake. I just want to start by saying just how good the original Resident Evil 4 still looks. You know a remake is good when it captures that feeling you had for the original release because it was ahead of its time, like Wind Waker or Shadow of the Colossus. Information on Resident Evil 4's behind the scenes came in the form of a bonus documentary DVD at the time, noting the game's use of more advanced motion capture software mixed with the time and effort of an animator's hand. Information on 4 Remake's development isn't as readily available, at least not right now, but we can assume the process has been similar to the other remakes in the series, which we can use as a reference point. The big thing that makes the animations in the original Resident Evil 4 look so good is the use of more advanced motion capture software than Capcom had used before. This is particularly notable during cutscenes, which we'll focus less on today and more on the gameplay, which we can assume had the same sort of process using motion capture, and definitely the same amount of care. When it comes to motion capture though, you'll need to neaten up the raw capture data by hand and make changes to ensure that the needs of the gameplay are met. For instance, switching from knife to gun is really quick, likely quicker than any captured reference footage could provide. This is where the animator's hand comes in to make those magic changes to the motion so it feels good to play. The character models are quite complex, allowing all sorts of varying movement. This is essential in making sure the movements are believable to the player, especially if the intention of the game is to shock or scare. Having a character move as believably as possible allows you to then perform movements which you likely wouldn't see in your day-to-day life, such as being lunged at by crazed villagers or shooting an old lady in the arse. However, as believable as the movements will need to be, you also need to think about how your character feels to play as well. Leon turns like a tank, with 4 directions being controlled with one stick, but you have an option to turn 180 degrees instantly, and all this movement feels fairly responsive. Pushing in any of these directions results in the start of the motion fairly quickly, whether that's running or walking. We only see Leon from the waist up, so we tend not to see his legs moving. It would be interesting to see what movement is going on off screen for this action. Leon has a fixed run cycle which only changes depending on his health and perhaps the type of gun he has equipped, but the actual motion and speed tend to remain the same. We'll talk more about this in a little bit. Leon's character model is split into different parts which can move independently of each other. His head can look at things as he runs by, for example. It's not quite animation blending, which is where 2 or more animations can be combined into a single action. This would come a little later in video game animation history. Most of the actions here are sequential, playing one after another. This is similar to previous Resident Evil games, where one animation would have to end or be interrupted so the next could start. This means Leon is anchored while shooting, which you could consider to be intentional, so the player has a stressful time figuring out their strategy of attack or evasion. It's not that moving and shooting wasn't uncommon in 2005. As we can see here, the legs can move independently of the upper body to give a more seamless and believable motion. Even back in 1999 with Jet Force Gemini, you were able to move around and shoot at the same time. So the decision here to lock Leon in place over the shoulder was a deliberate choice to keep in line with previous Resident Evil games to elevate that feeling of tension and stress. Speaking of stress, reloading a weapon has always been one of the more tense moments in Resident Evil games, as it takes a bit of time to do, which interrupts your attack. Oftentimes this leaves you open, when enemies can seize the opportunity for a lunge at you. This will send Leon into either his defensive state or taking damage state. Damage is mostly the same animation. It doesn't seem to matter what weapon Leon has in hand, being attacked by a weapon will begin the action of this backward reaction and a swaying recovery. Animation linking, back then, was fairly straightforward. If another animation had to start, the current animation would have to be interrupted, meaning the current frame would need just a mere few frames to connect, or smooth out, the transition into the starting pose of the next action. You can notice this in enemy attacks as well. It's super quick, but it just stops it looking too poppy or snappy. Like it doesn't just pop into place, it has a very quick transition. Leon has a couple of different movement cycles depending on his state, that is, how much damage is taken. He usually holds his gun up while at full health, but can't hold it up if he's low on health, and runs a little slower with his hand holding some vague pain in his torso. It doesn't stop him taking aim just as quickly though. Like I said before, you'll need to reload every now and then, although it ends up being more now than then, and every weapon has a different reload animation and a varying amount of time needed. Shotgun shells will need longer to load than a handgun round, for example. Additionally, each animation is different, no doubt crafted using reference on how these guns are handled by real people who use guns for things. I think my favourite reload is the rifle. It has a very satisfying mechanical appeal to the order and process Leon has to do when slotting the round in and making sure it's lodged and flicks out the cartridge or whatever that is, I don't know. Whatever the bit is that pings away. I'm not really into guns, I don't really know much about them, but they look fun to reload. I think my favourite recoil is the hand cannon. Just look at that thing. It's lovely. Really exaggerated, but probably not even so. That's probably just how one might actually react in real life. The one that stands out as looking a bit weird is the TMP. It's just very snappy. I get that's probably the visual they're going for, showing the power behind every little bullet coming out, but using it once just looks a tad bizarre. Overall, the Mine Thrower is probably my favourite of all of these. And of course, some animations can be reused on similar weapons. There's this really good video on YouTube with just the weapon reload animations if you're interested. Thanks to Hectorio for making this video, very handy. I find the knife swipe animation to be a bit weird. I don't know, I feel like the direction is more like waving a wand rather than slicing a knife. Ada's animation is a bit more fitting, I find. It has a bit more force behind it, and I think it's down to it being more horizontal. It's not much, but it makes all the difference. And the throwing animation is nice. This little twist in the elbow is great, though it does just feel like it lacks a little bit of energy, but I'm being picky. I think I just like it more exaggerated, but that's probably not appropriate for the tone of the game. Why? I don't know. Probably to do with that realism I was talking about earlier. Leon also has a jumping animation, which is generally the same for whatever he jumps over, which is handy, especially if you make everything he needs to jump over the same height. This is what we call an elegant solution. Okay, so let's zoom forward a couple of decades. We've been past a couple of consoles, a few Resident Evil games, before coming back around to Resident Evil 4 again. Remade in the same way 2 and 3 had just been remade. We've had advancements in video game animation techniques, and things are pretty sophisticated now. For instance, animation blending is now a thing, where 2 or more types of animation can be played at the same time, such as shooting and moving, or reacting to other things. Oh yeah, you can shoot and move now, which wasn't a thing in the original. You also have this great movement where... Actually, hang on. Moving and shooting. That's a pretty big thing, right? I haven't covered the differences between the original Resident Evil 2 and its remake, but the original was fixed cameras and the remake was over the shoulder, like 4. That's a pretty big change, which drastically alters that original feeling of the game. It's much more prominent in those first 2 remakes, which used fixed cameras, than it is here in 4, but it's still something significant. You could call it a quality of life improvement to bring it in line with modern gaming trends, which would see your character be able to move and shoot at the same time, but I don't think this change should be overlooked. I think it still feels the same because you're moving slowly, but the option to move at all definitely changes the type of tension you're going to feel when facing a horde. So this change from moving like a tank to moving like a human adds to the believability of the character even more, arguably increasing the tension you'll feel when facing other unbelievable moments and monsters. And because of this animation blending, it's very easy for various different parts of Leon's character model to do different things at the same time. Your reload animation is still time consuming, as it should be, but you can now move and run while reloading, which you couldn't do originally as you couldn't move while aiming or shooting. The way you take damage is more sophisticated, with an array of ways you can be caught by villagers and have to shake them off. The throwing animation feels better, the jumping animation feels more natural. Honestly, lots of these things can be chalked up to better technology and software being handled by people with more experience and historical knowledge of animation practices in video games, resulting in a very smooth, satisfying and believable movement system. I just want to quickly point out a little bit where Leon kicks a villager. Because the position that the villager might be in when Leon kicks them could be absolutely any position, there needs to be a transition from the end point of the last action and the starting point of the next action. Because this is 2023 and linear animation is a thing of the past. See what I did there? I did a lie, because even though the PS5 remake is seemingly trying to be as smooth as possible, the animation of the villager is still going to be interrupted so that it plays instantly and feels good. Can you see that snap happening there? Also, the camera plays a big part in selling the action of these kicks, both now and before. I guess what we really want to do is have a look at some of these animations side by side to see how they compare, to see if what made the original Resident Evil 4 so popular, or at least part of that, is being kept or being swept away, like into a bin. So we can see here some of the main elements like taking aim, shooting, swiping, kicking are pretty much a one-for-one in timing. Except for loading. At least we've got here the loading of a pistol and a shotgun. One thing that changes this is the fact that you can move while loading. This one aspect alone changes that whole tense feeling of if you can do it in time before you're caught. So if you can move while doing this, then it kind of makes sense to balance this out a bit by having the reload take a little longer than the original. Obviously, weapons can be upgraded throughout the game, which makes reloading quicker and easier. So a sort of conclusion and roundup, Leon's whole attitude and essence is definitely captured in this remake. You can see it in his movements. If anything, Leon is probably more chill and confident in the remake, with these more laid-back approaches to his actions. There doesn't seem to be this sense of urgency that's present in the original. The way he's a bit more upright compared to a bit more slouched. Generally, everything is smoother. The transition from walking to running is like butter. You barely see it happening, especially if you keep initiating a run and stopping when compared to the original. You can see Leon's feet when moving, you can angle the camera to see. I mean, this is really cool. Looking at how the legs are compensating for the shifting weight and how they don't clip into each other and just don't appear to break at all, that's really cool. I'm really impressed with Resident Evil 4 Remake. It's simply one of the best looking games at the moment, and it feels the same as the original felt to play, whether everything has been captured exactly one-to-one or not. And that's just down to some very crucial understanding of animation systems, talented animators, and very good use of motion capture and reference. And skill. Oh, I want to show you some fun looking indie games that are coming up. I want to start doing this at the end of my videos so you've got some fun, interesting things to play between massive release gaps. I give this reading list a name on my Patreon. I call it AAA Games, and the 3 A's stand for Awesome Art and Animation. It's a play on actual AAA games, you see? I've got 3 Star Fox alikes to show you. This first one is called Bat Galaxy, a very vibrant PS2 inspired on-rail shooter. Currently no release date, but you can follow its production on Twitter. This next one, Exodiac, is styled a bit more like the original Star Fox for the SNES, but running with smooth lines at 60 FPS and not 6 FPS. You can follow its development by Ben Hickling on Kickstarter. And this third one is called Whisker Squadron, a cel-shaded cartoonish roguelike flying shooter which looks very nice. This is on Steam to be wishlisted. I'll talk more about good looking indie games in my upcoming videos. If you like these videos and want to see more of them, consider funding me through Patreon, which also gives you access to other content I produce, like animation tutorials and game development. And that's it. That's the end of the video.